The finale of a TV season is most likely the most important episode of that season. It's the episode that ties all the loose ends for that particular season, or gives something new to provide in order to induce excitement for the next season. Now, Ninjago, of course, is no exception to either one of these tendencies. So today I'll be ranking all 15 Ninjago finales. Remember, this is my opinion. So if you see some of the popular finales at the towards the bottom, don't pick on me and don't roast me, because I will remove you from my comment section if you harass me for this. I'm going to get murdered for this. Big Trouble, Little Ninjago. I said it. Okay? I said it. Big Trouble, Little Ninjago, in my opinion, is the worst finale out of all of them. Okay, I know what you guys are thinking. What the hell is your problem, Luke? Why do you hate this? Everyone loves it. Why do you hate it? Well, I'll be honest with you. This isn't a finale in my eyes. This is a continuation. Now, you might be thinking, well, no shit, Sherlock. It is a continuation, but it's also considered a season finale. Yeah, I can understand that, because technically season finales is the last episode of the season. But to me, a season finale means more than that. It's more than just the last episode. It's an ending, an actual ending, you know what I mean? A thing that ties all the loose ends together and gives a resolution. Did this finale, quote-unquote, if you want to call it that, do that? No. But that's because that wasn't the purpose of it. So, by my logic, you cannot call it a finale. And because of that, I had to put it in last. Honestly, though, the episode I actually found itself to be pretty good. But, like I said, it's not really a finale. So that's why it sits here at the bottom, because I don't consider it a finale. A finale to me is something that ends. It doesn't really continue, because then it's called a continuation. Now, you may be wondering, what about the cliffhanger endings? Well, at least something concludes in those cliffhanger endings. Like, for example, the Tournament of Elements finale, Corridor of Elders. At least the main story of the Tournament of Elements ended before we got the Moro cliffhanger reveal. There's Lost in Time, which, that one was under different circumstances. But still, not all cliffhanger finales can end. At least something has to end before you can introduce something else, basically is what I'm saying. So, yeah, I don't care if you roast me for it, attack me or whatever. I'll just remove your comment, and if you further harass me for this opinion, I will just remove your ability to comment on this channel. So, suck it! Awakenings. Oh boy, what a rushed mess this episode was. This episode basically had like 5 storylines being concluded in the span of 11 minutes. That's basically about 2.5 minutes per storyline. There's no way you could do that without rushing the storylines. I mean, for example, the biggest offense of this is that Nia's original plan for her awful ice storyline was basically her controlling Boreal. At least it would have had a satisfying conclusion. But as my friend Neil from the Four Corners has said, it's like the writers seemingly had a little bit of a brain lapse and forgot about Kai's storyline. So they basically reversed Nia's just to give Kai a final sense of closure. Which, in a sense, is basically a big fuck you to Nia. Which is incredibly disrespectful and kind of sexist in a way. And also, there's the way Zane came back. He came back by hearing the word protect. Now, this doesn't seem all that bad, since that's part of his mantra, built to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That seems fine and whatnot, but when you actually think about it, it makes no sense. Has he not heard the word protect all of his time when he has reigned as the Ice Emperor, he must have heard it at least once. Maybe not on, maybe not often, but there could have been a chance. And when there could have been, there probably should have been. But that's just me. Honestly, though, I feel like this finale could have been way better had the format back then worked a lot better. The Tooth of Wojira. Yeah, this one didn't really do all that great, especially since Seabound just kind of ignored the island's existence and kind of carried on as if it didn't really exist. So it's like, well... Anyways, this episode, I don't really remember all that much. I actually had to look back on it to see what actually happened. So if I remember from skimming it, basically Jay is quote-unquote sacrificed to Wojira, and I think the ninja get pissed to Mamadas about it or something. And then Mamadas tells, I think, the tale of how basically Wojira keeps coming back for more goods. So it's kind of like, how a tribe worships a god, essentially. But it turns out that this Wojira, quote-unquote, the Wojira that we saw, was actually fake. And it was actually a ploy made by Ronin. Just for the sake of money. Now, a lot of people, a lot of fans, hated this plot twist. And I could understand why. Ronin has been one of those flip-floppy characters. He always seems to change allegiance wherever he pleases. And I feel like people are tired of him just changing sides. I think people are just like, well, pick a side, please. I don't really care if you're a good guy or a bad guy. Just stay on that side forever. Don't try and change sides. Now, there are some that have defended this decision by saying that Ronin has always been a quote-unquote morally gray character. The problem with this argument is that if you think about it, Ronin's first appearance was possession, even though technically that actually was not his first appearance, because his actual first appearance was in the video game Shadow of Ronin. But again, there's one problem. Most fans don't even know what Shadow of Ronin even is. So to them, Ronin's first appearance was in possession, where even though he seemed like an asshole, he eventually turned to the good side. So in that mindset, he was a good guy. Then season 6, he was a bad guy. Then he went back to being a good guy again, and then he went back to being a bad guy again. So he basically was just flipping sides for the sake of it. And he kind of was, because his reasoning for that was money, because he's a bounty hunter. That's what bounty hunters are. My issue with this is that if they introduced that idea right when he debuted onto the TV show, I don't think people would have a problem with it. But they didn't. They didn't introduce that idea. They showed that they showed the money side, but they didn't show that he would flip because of that. So I feel like that's where the problem lied. At least Twitchy Tim got his moment to shine at the end, and it did set up Seabound well. It's just, like I said before, Seabound just kind of pretended that the island didn't even happen, so in a way, the island kind of felt pointless. Green Destiny. Shockingly, yet not so shocking, I put another fan favorite finale in a very low position. Well, that just proves that I have a very interesting take on Ninjago, where I see all the popular things as very bleh, and all the not popular things as really good. So, here's why I'm not a huge fan of Green Destiny. I am a huge Lloyd hater, basically. Anything that has to do with post-Season 7 Lloyd, besides the movie, I will not like. Just because I don't like the creative direction they are doing with Lloyd. Because they're treating him more as a regular person than as a ninja. And that's a big problem that I will elaborate further on in a future video, where I talk about why I don't like Season 8 Lloyd. But Season 9 Lloyd was a bit of a different story. While Season 8 basically took him down and made him somewhat like the easiest person to manipulate ever, Season 9 showed him endurance, brought him back to the status quo that should never have been taken away to begin with. Um, and while I did enjoy the action and whatnot, there was no emotion to it at all. I know a lot of people said there was, but to me there wasn't. I did like the cool callback to Rebooted with the art of Silent Fist, aka I cannot fight you, but I can resist you. But like Garmadon, I got incredibly annoyed with him saying that all the time. Like once or twice is fine, not freaking 10 times. All right, we get it at that point. And as to Lloyd getting his powers back, it was beautifully animated. Don't get me wrong, but it's not an emotional moment to me whatsoever. Due to what I said earlier about Lloyd. Lloyd just doesn't work for me anymore. He's not a good character for me anymore. Hasn't been a good character since 2018 in this season. And the only reason I consider him decent nowadays is because he has smaller roles. And hopefully he continues to either get smaller roles or the series has to basically write him off in some way. Because I don't know if there's really anything they could do to innovate his character anymore. What does his character have left? What journey does he have left? Answer for that in the comments, because I generally don't see a reason why Lloyd, other than kids like Lloyd, but even then, I feel like a Ninjago show could work without Lloyd. Maybe not the theme itself, but I do think like a show can work without Lloyd. It may be a small price to pay, but sometimes you might have to put the story in the way of the money. But that's just me personally. So I didn't really feel any emotion in this finale. Also, I really didn't like how a high caliber villain, even if I didn't like this incarnation of Garmadon, a high caliber villain such as Garmadon receiving such a low caliber way of being defeated by him getting arrested. I felt that was not the way I would have wanted him to be beaten. I would have had him beaten, laid down on his back, just unconscious and whatnot. That's a true Garmadon defeat, not just him getting arrested. That's lame, honestly. At least it concluded the Sons of Garmadon's story. But that's all I'll say now, considering I'm going on 4 minutes into this recording. The Way Back. Of course, it's about time I talk about this damn finale again. For the longest time, I despised this finale beyond eternity, because I didn't understand why would you want to reverse the entire season of basically the whole development. It made no sense to me. But as I thought about it for years and years and years, I slowly started to understand what the direction they were trying to do. They weren't trying to reverse all of the development. They were just trying to, I guess, make it have a new impact, I guess. Make it be impactful by making it reverse, which I don't see that logic. That seems very convoluted if you ask me. But it was not what happened. It's not the reversal itself that actually made me mad. It was what happened after it. Because the writers took two back-to-back poor decisions that honestly should not have happened. One, why do only Jay and Nia remember the events of Skybound? Why? I don't understand that. Because it just really seems forced to do that. Why can't you just everyone remember the events? At least they would have justified the ending of season 6 in a way. And then my second, more prominent complaint is that Jay and Nia should have broken up after this episode. This episode should have been the breakup. I mean, think about it. Their dialogue between the two didn't seem like they were on the same page at all. It seemed that they were speaking on much more friendlier terms than, let's say, a boyfriend and a girlfriend would. So it makes much more sense for them to just say, hey, we'll just be friends, and they'll just be friends. No boyfriend, girlfriend, nothing. But when they decided that Nia would just eventually get back together with Jay, that to me made no sense. I mean, you spent almost the entire season in a way implying that they would break up, and all of a sudden you're just gonna force them back together. You know what that sounds like to me? Fan service! It sounded like brutal Jaya fan service, if you ask me. I feel like the only reason they were kept together is because the Jaya fans would be incredibly pissed and I would laugh at their pain and misery for their favorite relationship breaking up. I mean, honestly, those fans need to grow up. Life doesn't always work that way, alright? Some relationships don't work out, okay? I've been in 2 online relationships. Neither of them worked out, alright? Am I complaining about it? No. I just live and learn. You gotta live and learn and move on with your life. And I feel like that's what Jay should have done. Because in my opinion, both Jay and Nia were handicapping each other by being in a relationship. What I mean by this is basically, because they were in a relationship, it didn't allow them to get their own individual character. Because basically, at that point, their entire character basically revolved around their significant other. Which, that's not how you build a character, if you ask me. That's how you not write a character, honestly. But luckily, Seabound has partially fixed this with Nia. Hopefully Jay can actually get his own individual character somewhere down the line and not be just, oh, I miss Nia, oh, I miss Nia, oh, I miss Nia. If that's the case, I doubt that the writers will ever make Jay a truly lovable character in my eyes. But I do think I did over-hate this finale for such a long time. But do I consider this one of the best finales ever? Absolutely not. But I don't hate it as I once did. It's still pretty meh to me. It could have been oh so much better had they decided to go in the creative direction that I mentioned before. AKA making everyone remember the events and making Jay and Nia break up for good. If they'd done that, it would have probably been one of my favorite finales. But it sits here at this position. Endings. One of the most controversial finales to have ever aired. This finale got a bunch of controversy, like I just said, but I don't know if this controversy was actually deserved, to be honest. Sure, it was the weakest episode of Marchione. I do agree with that. However, I don't feel like it really deserved all the controversy it got. I mean, a big reason was that it had a shit number of plot holes, which some of them had explanations, just not very well explained ones, or ones that should have been explained in the show, and not just you have to basically answer the question for yourself. Also, a lot of people criticized the Kyrie forging scene. I mean, it was going to be a montage either way, so I don't see the issue here. But I do think this episode was pretty good. However, I do kind of see where some of the other criticisms go. For example, the Cole dying thing that happened in the previous episode. Yeah, that basically was a big fake out. Which, that was really mad. That one was just really weird. Why would you do that? And one that made me pissed off more was the Lloyd fake out death. Because it made so much sense at the time to just kill off or write off Lloyd from the show entirely. It made a whole bunch of sense. I mean, where else could his character have gone? What else is for him to do, essentially? Other than maybe get the master role that he should have... That in my head, he got the master title in Marchione. That's just my vision. But, honestly, what else is there for him to do? He should have honestly went with the first Spinjitzu master. I really didn't understand why Lloyd just all of a sudden wanted to come back to his friends, other than, I just want to fight beside my friends, essentially. I can understand that, but what else is there for his character left, essentially? There was really nothing left for his character to do, essentially. So I didn't understand that decision. So you basically had 2 fake out deaths in 1 episode. What the hell? And the final battle, a lot of people didn't like, the choreography of it at all, which I can understand, but, like, there were a bunch of Oni to begin with, so there was only so much they could do. I was more concerned of how they basically did not use the golden armor and used it more of as a way to scare the Oni off instead of actually using, them like weapons. I think only Zane and Cole used it. I think only Zane and Cole used theirs. I don't think Kai used his or Jay used his to the actual extent. And speaking of the golden weapons, the nunchucks of lightning and the scythe of quakes look fucking terrible in that design. I mean, you can't really ruin the sword of fire or the shurikens of ice. It's very hard to mess those up. But the nunchucks of lightning they don't look like nunchucks. They look more like goblets, if you will. They look more like goblets. Like you could drink out of that stuff. And the scythe of quakes, oh my god, it's laughably bad. The handle is way too short. It should be way longer, okay? Also, I remember there was another plot hole that, what was it? Nia could not use the Scythe of Quakes, even though Kai literally in the first episode of the series used it. So, used the Scythe of Quakes. So it's like, well, I can understand why a lot of people would be mad at that one, because that just proves that you don't need to be the specific elemental master to use that weapon. But I feel like that was a retcon. But, anyways, at least the final ending scene, no pun intended, was very good. And honestly, if Ninjago were to have ended there, I would have been satisfied. I know some other people would not have been satisfied due to them thinking it would be much better. They wanted like a much better finale, but I would have been satisfied, honestly. It was satisfying enough to where I could say goodbye to Ninjago forever, essentially. But alas, Ninjago continued. But, well, what can you do in this case? I still thought it was enjoyable, nonetheless. Game over. This finale, like some of the other ones I've mentioned, is another rushed finale. This one, however, isn't quite nearly as rushed as some of the other ones, because I feel like it's a little bit rushed. It's not like insanely rushed, but a little bit rushed. Mostly because I felt like they could have done more within the span of 11 minutes, and part of the time they could have chosen, like, for example, when Jay was explaining everything to Zane and the others, I felt like that could have and should have been cut out just for more battle time. But at least in the end, we did get some poignant moments between Jay and Unagami and Daira and Unagami. At least those moments were pretty special in the end. So at least it had some emotion and it had some good battles. But I feel that it could have and most likely should have done more. The Corridor of Elders. This was a sort of underwhelming finale or such a beloved Ninjago season. And that's really down to how mismanaged the 2 main arcs of this season were. If it was up to me, it'd be 5 episodes for the tournament and 5 episodes for the Second Serpentine War. Whereas what we actually got was 7 episodes for the tournament and only 3 for the war, which is very mismatched, if you will. I feel like the war didn't really get enough proper development. It didn't actually feel like a war in a way. It felt more like a battle, I guess, which isn't exactly the same thing as a war. Considering a war takes place of multiple battles, whereas a battle is a singular event. Anyways, I also didn't like the whole hold the line thing. I didn't understand the whole significance of the line. I felt that they just were being over dramatic for the sake of being over dramatic, basically. Also, I don't like how it eventually just became a shoving match. I wanted to see actual fighting, not pushing and shoving, alright? That's what I want to watch Ninjago for. That's one of the reasons why I want to watch it. I want to watch it for that action, boy. I don't want to watch it for pushing and shoving. Like, that's not really going to get you anywhere, honestly. But, at least it had a very good cliffhanger ending with Morrow basically coming in with a little bit of a sneaky reveal. So I thought that was a very good end in that case. But as a whole, it's kind of underwhelming. I still find it pretty good, though. Day of the Great Devourer. The first finale, and the first two-part finale, technically, if you want to include it with Rise of the Great Devourer with the previous episode. This finale was great. It was pretty good. I liked it. The action could have been better, but then again, it was season 1, so... Then, you had this whole thing of, how do we stop the Great Devourer? And, you were wondering along with them, how in the world were these tiny little ninja going to stop a humongous creature like the Great Devourer? To the point where even Jay spazzes out over it and gives one of his funniest lines ever, which, if you know what it is, you know. Anyways, you also had a pretty good speech by Kai, which a lot of people missed this version of, just him giving the speeches about, the size of the fight in the ninja, which I thought was really inspirational. Also, we saw the Ultra Dragon come back, even if Ultra got his ass kicked in the end by the Great Devourer. And we also saw GARMADON come back and finally finish off the Great Devourer with the weak spot. And I loved his lines before that. It was like, you're the reason that evil runs through my blood. So here's what it feels like to be bitten back. I'm pretty sure he's what he said. And I thought, damn, basically. I didn't say that at the time because I didn't know how to cuss. But when I rewatched, when I remembered it, I was like, damn. Man, it was so good. It was a feel-good moment, if you will. And also seeing Wu come back after being eaten alive. Even if we already saw that in Rise of the Great Devourer. But still, that was a great finale. And I'm glad that it did get, referenced again in Season 8, even if the circumstances beyond it were a little bit iffy, if I'm being honest. Lost in Time. This finale was pretty damn good. I love the fight scenes. I feel like starting from Season 7 onwards, the fight scenes became much better and better and better. And Wild Brain definitely helped it. But Season 7, I believe, was the start of when fight scenes truly began to stand out. And the final fights towards the end of Season 7, Hands of Time, definitely proved that. Especially with, going back to 40 years ago, the Elemental Alliance. I love that. Such a cool concept. And even did have a little bit of a fake-out moment with, with Kai seemingly losing control and basically giving up. And then Wu sort of told and Nia got the past reversal blade because it was not at the boiling sea yet. It was in the forest. So they managed to reverse time so that they could finally finish off Acronix and Crux. And just the final fight up on the Iron Doom as they're seemingly going past everything it's basically a mindfuck, if you will. But it's also very awesome to watch, even if the lighting wasn't exactly the best. However, this was one of those cliffhanger finales where it didn't truly end. and then we were supposed to get an ending, or at least a follow-up to it, but then the movie fucked everything up, and, we never got anything until this year with Golden Hour, which ended up turning into a massive disappointment because it didn't actually solve the question of where in the hell the Time Twins are. So, in the end, it left a really good cliffhanger, basically unsolved due to circumstances that it could not control. But, anyways, I thought this was a pretty good finale nonetheless. The Son of Lily. I mean, what can I say about this finale? This finale was great. The action stood out. And the emotion, even if there wasn't all that much compared to some other finales that will be later featured in here, it was still good enough to at least get through to make it somewhat emotional. I really liked it. And it does leave a little bit of a somber feeling now, since this was the last episode to air on Cartoon Network in the United States before Kirby Morrow's unfortunate passing. So I feel like that's a big reason why a lot of people rank it really high on the finale, simply because of the timing between the date of it airing and Kirby Morrow's passing. So I guess it sticks in that way, But I'm not gonna raise it up just because he passed away from that. That's really just down to timing, if you will. The only thing that prevents it from getting a 10 for me is mostly due to one thing that just didn't really make sense. A couple of episodes back, earlier in the season, towards the end of one particular episode, I forgot which one it was, Halmar attacked Vanya. Okay? We didn't see the battle at all. And all of a sudden, they, for some reason, work their differences, and they show up to save the day. Honestly, though, this should have we should have seen the final battle, not the final battle, we should have seen the whole battle, and not just the start of it, get nothing afterwards, and then just pretend like it didn't really happen, Because it did. We're not stupid, okay? So I really felt that they either should not have done the battle at all, or at least should have shown more of the battle. I understand they wanted to make the season a lot more about Cole, but some things need to be answered. And this was definitely one of them. Still a very great finale nonetheless. CURSEWORLD Part 2. This finale was was very good, honestly. It was great. I mean, the one thing I really liked about this finale was basically the action. There was basically action left and right, and I loved the intensity of it. It was very intense, and I just loved it. I loved that intensity out of the finale. And going back between, the Morrow and Lloyd fight, and the ninja and the preeminent I thought was really well balanced. And we actually received a very poignant moment when Lloyd is in the preeminent during the beginning of the episode and sees his father for one more time, and then he has this heartwarming speech, and honestly, I was just, floored by it. It made me emotional, because back then, Lloyd and Garmadon's dynamic was the dynamic in the entire series. It was the one thing that made a lot of viewers basically want to watch Ninjago. Now it's fucking ruined, and I'm still mad at Sons of Garmadon for ruining it. I'm still mad at it. But anyways, I thought that was a nice send-off to Garmadon, and it should have been the permanent send-off to the character. But of course the movie fucked everything up. But anyways, also you gotta give credit where credit is due, and give Paul Dobson and Andrew Francis, the new Cole, credits with their other poignant scene with, Moro basically giving in and basically accepting what he has done and dying as a result. Especially when Paul Dobson as Wu shouts Moro. It was really well acted line, and you couldn't have done that line any better. Anyways, like I said with endings, if Ninjago ended there, I would have been satisfied, because it would have been a little awkward with Cole as a ghost, but then again, Zane is in his titanium form, so it's like, well... But anyways, this was an incredibly enjoyable finale. The Titanium Ninja. Oh my god, what a finale. And you guys might be shocked that I did not immediately jumpstart this at number 1 because of me being a Zane fan. I will say this finale does have some minor issues that I'll get into later. But I will say the one thing I really loved in this episode was the tension and the emotion. It seems like with these finales, it seems like it starts off very calm, but things get more tense as the episode goes on. And then, you get the ultimate intensity, where everything is at stake. One wrong move could lead to basically the world ending, or possibly even your death even. Ironic that I just said that. And then it resolves in either a happy or sad way. And this one, I think, was the first sad ending of a Ninjago season, as we all know. If you don't know, where have you been these years? Just where have you been? But anyways, if you don't know, Zane sacrifices himself for the greater good, thus him dying in the process. Which, it was a very emotional moment, and back then, it made 80% of the Ninjago fan base back then cry their eyeballs out, including this man, right? Miss Man, me. And, well, I really enjoyed it. However, as time went on, a lot of people have started to point out some flaws in this finale. Most notably, the fact that Zane was brought back basically 5 minutes later. Basically 5 minutes after his sacrifice. Thus kind of ruining the whole sacrifice to begin with. I wouldn't go far as to say ruin, but it did lessen it, if you will. I think the better term was lessen the sacrifice. It made the sacrifice not as noteworthy, if you will. I do agree with that, but I wouldn't say ruin it. I think ruin is a bit of too strong of a term, but I could definitely see where people are going with that. Also, there are 2 plot conveniences within this episode. 1, the elemental shields, because what the hell are the elemental shields? What are they? How did they get there, and why don't they ever return ever since this episode, the episode which they debuted, mind you, and also Pythor jumping in the way of the Overlord being hit by the small pill. I felt that was incredibly convenient, because Pythor was nowhere to be seen, and all of a sudden, here he comes to save his master! But anyways, even though those 2 were basically kind of minor to me, I can understand why people were more affected by these plot conveniences than I was. But still, I thought this was a wonderful finale that still holds up to this very day. Rise of the Spinjitzu Master. Say what you will about this finale. I know a lot of people have basically criticized this finale for being not the quote-unquote true finale and whatnot, but you gotta remember, Season 3 was never ever supposed to happen in the first place. This was intended to be the true finale. So, yeah, I understand if you were mad that this wasn't the true finale, but you can't just blame Season 2 for that. You have to blame the actual success of Ninjago as a whole, and people that actually wanted Ninjago to be brought back because they thought it was so good. So blame them if you feel this way. But anyways, what I loved about this episode was the emotion and the tension. It felt like it got more tense as the episode went on. And that's what I loved. It got more tense with the stakes ever increasing, ever so slightly. But it was just enough to where you would think, oh my god, what's going to happen next? And then, when you see those darkened skies and hearing Garmatron, to me, that still sent a shiver down my spine. It still does to this day. I'm feeling it right now. And then when you witness, the ninja being hit by the, I don't know what it was like, Overlord Breath Beam? Is that what it's called? When you saw him got hit, and when they turn into basically evil incarnation of themselves, back then, it was the scariest shit ever. Especially when Cole opened his eyes and he's purple, no irises whatsoever. Oh my god. That scares you. That scared me. It still probably does scare me because it looks so horrific back then. And then we have the actual final battle, and while it's not super great in terms of actual fighting. It was great in terms of, like, cinematography, if you will. It was great in terms of that aspect. And it also led to the meme of the Overlord being beaten by T-posing, if you will. If you know, you know. But anyways, this was supposed to be the original finale, so don't complain about it not being the true finale, because it was the true finale for the time. Blame the success of Ninjago for it continuing. But it's still a legendary finale. I don't give a damn what you say about this finale. Will always love this finale. The turn of the tide. Oh my lord, is this finale basically a masterpiece. I am appalled that these are the same writers that wrote absolutely shit episodes like The Absolute Worst. These are the same people. And they krilled in this masterpiece. Just everything was done to basically pure perfection. The story was awesome. The action was awesome. The animation was awesome. Just everything was awesome. And the emotion was there. That's what a finale needs. A finale needs emotion. Otherwise, it's just boring, bland, and dull. Then, unlike the Titanium Ninja, it's not at all a happy ending. Not at all, actually. As soon as you have an uplifting moment, you then brought down by, a very tear-jerking moment with Nia saying goodbye to the ninja team. And just Jay just crying. I know I said it in the past that I have not been a fan of the Jaya ship or any relationship in the series at all due to my feelings of it being a distraction from the actual purpose of the series, which was to enjoy the story. But this is one of, if not the only moment where I actually cared about their relationship. Because, like Nia said, the greatest love stories do end in tragedy, and it did end in tragedy, at least for now in this case. And just that, a bunch of cameos from a bunch of characters like Vanya, the Upley, Dareth, Ed and Edna, Gulch, Mertessa. I don't know how much budget that season had, but oh my god, it had a lot of budget to just animate all those characters, even if they didn't really do anything. Didn't really have many facial expressions and whatnot. And just the whole eulogy, it's not really a funeral in a sense, since a funeral requires a body to be created, to be in service. It was more of a eulogy, but still, the eulogy was really poignant, very sad, very somber, and I really, really liked it. And there was one last gut punch with the in-loving memory of Kirby Morrow, as this was Kirby's last episode recorded before his untimely death. So, not only does this service the potential goodbye for now for Nia, but also the permanent goodbye for Kirby Morrow as a cast member of the series. Luckily, I hope Andrew Francis will do him justice, and hopefully we can see Nia return, but not immediately like the Titanium Ninja kinda did. And hopefully Neo doesn't just return to her human form, thus kinda saying screw you to the whole water form, the the Nead form, whatever, energy, whatever it's called. But anyways, what do you guys think? Which of these finales is your favorite? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, I hope you guys like this video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel by clicking on the red subscribe button, and click on the notification bell to see every video that I will upload. And I'll see all you folks in the next video. Bye-bye!